Welcome back. I know, Taryn, you wanted to reply to Dr.
Yes,
Dolny.
as my doctor over here can testify to, is that patients do go through different stages. They may go through periods where they feel as if they want to die, and then their circumstances may change, and they beat all predictions. Maybe even they want to see their son graduate or something like that. So they can go through different periods.
Are you suggesting there's not a point? Doctor, let me ask you this in relation to that. There is a point where doctors would say there is no longer any hope. That happens all the time.
Yes, that is the case, and I think doctors are often misquoted. I think patients interpret that. I've actually never heard a doctor saying that in my presence, there's no hope, because we have more painkillers, we have more analgesics, we have more palliative care than we've ever had before.
That doctors don't say, in all due honesty, the level of, let's say, cancer is so now ridden through the body that we have no longer anything other than make the patient comfortable and hopefully give them some level of dignity in a hospice.
That is true. In other words,
you may be right.
They would never say there's no hope, go home and die, unless they're very overworked and burnt out, which is possible.
But then let me ask you this. What about
Two-thirds of doctors, 1,000 doctors in the UK were surveyed, 2/3 of them said that they were not comfortable with talking to patients about end-of-life decisions. That's an astonishing
well,
statistic.
maybe that's because they feel like they're going to be pressurized to doing something against their conscience.
What we would like is different training for
But
doctors.
can I ask you, what about the point that A decides to take his own life, and the truth about it is that at some particular point in time, miraculously, as we hear from time to time, maybe miraculous, that person actually lives for much longer. Has a serious quality of life. I mean, I know that the person you're talking about, and I think the country deserves to know this, was Joe Slovo, is one of the great South Africans, certainly of the 20th century. And the point I'm simply making is, you said you had 3 and so many years with him, and I recall meeting him on numerous occasions when he was larger than life, even though he was probably dying. Now, if we kind of took that situation, when would one decide to turn it off, as it were, even though he had been diagnosed? Wouldn't one want to have had those 3.5 years with him?
The person themselves makes a decision. So in Joe's case, I think a month before he died, he fell, he broke his collarbone. He already knew that there were no avenues of treatment in terms of bone marrow
So you're
cancer.
suggesting he'd be the person who would make the decision?
That is always the case with the sister
Taryn,
dying.
can I just ask you
this?
So can I just, sorry?
Andrew Lloyd Webber filled out the forms for Dignitas, a euthanasia clinic in Switzerland. When he was going through a severe period of depression, he had a lot of operations. But now he said that was a terrible mistake. He said,
but there's a big difference between that. If you take the
he
Dutch,
doesn't want to die anymore.
if you take the Dutch version, that you've got to actually persist in your request. That's apart from all the other criteria about panel of doctors and review panels, etc. This is not a cavalier thing. But if you, I mean, let me put this to you. Jonathan Glover is one of the great ethicists who's written about this. Writes as follows: to refuse to provide help to commit suicide is a very serious denial of a person's autonomy over the matter of his own life and her own life and death, and is only to be justified by powerful arguments appealing either to the future quality of life or to side effects. Now, that doesn't seem to be what you're arguing. You're arguing much more than that.
Because he's going directly against the Hippocratic Oath, which is our fundamental ethic, our moral fibre for both the Christians, Jews, and Muslim people. In other words, our striving is all to heal and to help.
But you
towards
can't
a natural
heal anymore.
end.
You failed. The truth about it is that medical science has run out.
That's where we need palliative care. Now, palliative care is comfort care. It's driven the hospice movement, which is now represented in almost all countries of the world, even rural areas, founded by Dame Cicely Saunders in England. And palliative care is now an integral part of modern medical student training. They have to pass it. They have to know about pain control. I even teach them.
Can I just ask you this, though? As a doctor, have you never been confronted by a person who's in such agony, so unspeakably ill, has absolutely, they've got no hope of continuing beyond a few months, and if that person said, please put me out of my agony, You seriously not had any qualms about that at all?
No, we wouldn't give something to end their life. We would give something to alleviate their pain.
But you can't, because sometimes you can't alleviate their pain. You know that as well as I do.
I would argue with that, because modern pain combinations are very, very...
Well, what's the quality of life then?
You see, it all depends on your definition of quality of life. We are mistakenly based quality of life on independence and autonomy. I would say a large number of people do not have quality of life into that definition. All our vulnerable, our mentally handicapped, our demented patients, they do not have quality of life under that definition.
Quality of life in a situation where you're dying, there is absolutely nothing you can do, even on your own definition, other than to give them a palliative drug, which you have no idea whether it in fact takes away all the pain, since you aren't lying there.
You have to see the interconnectedness of a person with his family and his society, because no one lives alone and dies alone. No man is an island.
Right.
We have to look at the family dynamics around a dying patient, because it has been shown, studies, that a person can't die in peace if their families are warring and feuding.
Okay.
If you can help counseling, support the family, improve pain control, bring in spiritual support. Studies have shown that people's fears
doesn't want any
affect physical pain. They fear abandonment. They fear loss of bodily function. They haven't been counseled about what happens to their body. They haven't made a will. All these things need to be helped to... The autonomy of a person is multifaceted.
So let me ask you this, on that particular basis, if what the doctor's saying is correct, surely the family and others have a say in this too? So what is being suggested is that autonomy is a qualified proposition, whatever Glover may say.
So one of the really important things in what I understand from family counselling, having done the hospice training myself, and I went to America and did a course in rites of passage guides, so I absolutely agree with the systemic approach. I do respect autonomy. That is ultimate. The person must really choose, because you wouldn't want a situation where a person feels that they're an inconvenience.
But where do we draw the line? Where do we draw
exactly.
the line?
What about the autonomy of those who don't want to be euthanized?
Ambrosini's family were totally supportive. It's very clear.
You accept that a family is ambivalent about this and divided, that you can't do it?
And what about the greedy relatives who want to get the inheritance from this person they perceive to be economic burden?
My autonomy is supreme, as you think.
Trumps the rest of the family?
Yes, because I am the one who is in the seat of dying, and I am considering that my life no longer has quality.
Taryn, why would you deny that autonomy? Isn't that central?
What about the autonomy, the right to life of those who are being euthanized in Belgium and Holland at this moment without their consent? Over 120 nurses admitted to doing this, and the report admits that this is probably a lot more than has been admitted, because they're scared of admitting this.
Possibly, but let me put this to you. There's not one law that we draft in this country on any particular issue that isn't broken because of corrupt people, because of dishonest people, because of criminal people. You're not suggesting that we tear up the law because of that. What you're suggesting, presumably, is that we imprison those people who depart from the law. That doesn't justify abolishing the law.
No, but the sanctity of life is absolutely crucial.
Okay, now we're getting to the rub of it.
From conception to natural death.
Okay, now we're getting to the rub of it, but we've got to take a break and I'll come back.